Criminal networks in the Western Hemisphere have found a new cash cow. And get this, it's more lucrative, easier to smuggle, and this is the crucial part, it's flowing straight into the U.S. financial system almost completely undetected.
That's really the hard truth we're digging into today. We're tracking how illegal gold mining has, transformed from an environmental catastrophe into a severe national security crisis.
And this isn't just about local crime, is it?
No, not at all. It exploits these critical weaknesses in U.S. law and our enforcement capacity. It's effectively turning America into a vast clearinghouse for criminal profits.
Okay, let's talk about the sheer scale of this pivot, because we are no longer just talking about drug cartels funded by narcotics. The whole dynamic has fundamentally shifted.
It absolutely has. I mean, the sources we analyze confirm that illegal gold is now the leading source of revenue for organized crime in both Colombia and Peru.
Wait, leading, as in more than cocaine.
More than cocaine. Think about that for a second. It has officially surpassed the drug trade. The numbers are just staggering. Peru's illegal gold exports alone, they're estimated to be worth around $4.8 billion a year.
And this isn't just, generic illicit money floating around. This is targeted dangerous financing.
It is a direct threat to stability. This revenue stream is funding violent groups like Clan del Golfo and that extremely dangerous transnational gang, Tren de Aragua. But what really makes it a national security issue for us is its use as a financial lifeline for hostile authoritarian regimes. Venezuela, for instance, generates an estimated $2.2 billion annually just from this illicit gold.
And to be perfectly clear, this gold is physically crossing into the U.S.
Oh, absolutely. We aren't talking about money laundering happening in some remote offshore bank.
Right.
Over the last 3 years, law enforcement at just Miami International Airport has encountered and seized over 1 metric ton of illicit gold.
1 ton.
1 ton. And it's linked directly to these criminal and conflict networks. It's a threat that has, well, it's already here.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Why? Why did organized crime pivot so completely from a proven product like cocaine to a commodity like gold? What makes gold a better financial weapon?
It all comes down to a simple destructive cost-benefit calculation. It's the ultimate low-risk, high-reward model.
Okay.
The reward side has just exploded because global gold prices are soaring. I mean, they've gone up 1,100% since the year 2000. They're reaching well over $3,500 an ounce by 2025. That creates these massive, irresistible profit margins.
But the low-risk part, that has to be the real game changer, right? Narcotics are illegal everywhere, full stop. Gold is a legal commodity. It's a universally accepted store of value.
That is the essential flaw in the global system. That's what they exploit. Gold can be easily washed. Once that illegal gold is melted down, blended and refined, often in major hubs like Switzerland or Dubai, it completely loses its chemical signature, its fingerprint.
So once it goes through that refinery process, it's clean.
Precisely. It becomes certified, legal bullion. It's completely indistinguishable from gold mine, legitimately. Criminals just use fraudulent paperwork and shell companies to blend that raw, dirty gold into the enormous, legitimate global supply chain.
It's the perfect mechanism.
It is. Dirty product, easily converted into clean, certified cash.
That makes the territorial control these groups are establishing down south even more alarming. They're not just selling a product anymore. They're controlling the entire means of production, acting as de facto authorities.
That's an excellent way to put it. They control the reality on the ground. We saw this in Colombia. After the FARC signed that 2016 peace agreement and vacated strategic territories, groups like the Clan del Golfo, they didn't waste a minute.
They just moved in.
They moved in, took control of the mining operations, secured the transport routes, and started extorting the local miners. They replaced one authority with another, much more violent one.
And in Venezuela, it's even worse. The state is actively colluding with these networks. The gang, Tren de Aragua, this massive, sprawling organization, they extract between 30 and 50 kilograms of gold every single day.
And that's worth anywhere from $1.7 million to $2.8 million. They are, for all intents and purposes, imposing a parallel governance system.
So here's where it gets really interesting for me. If sanctions are designed to starve regimes like Maduro's of resources, how is a hostile state actively using this gold trade to just survive all that international pressure?
Well, the Maduro regime didn't just stumble into this. They institutionalized it. They built a system specifically to evade U.S. sanctions. In 2016, they created something called the Orinoco Mining Arc. It's a massive zone, 111,000 square kilometers. And while they dressed it up as a legitimate economic development zone, the sources we have show it just formalized rampant loot extraction, relying heavily on the military elite and these gangs to enforce control.
So they basically turned an illegal activity into state policy. The dependence must be massive.
It's their life support. An estimated 86 to 91% of Venezuela's gold is produced illegally. This is the financial lifeline that lets them ignore international pressure.
Right. They can't access Western financial markets.
Not anymore. So they've strategically pivoted their sales. The gold now flows overwhelmingly to non-Western markets, places like Turkey, Russia, and of course the key financial hub of Dubai.
And the logistics sound less like commodity trading and more like something out of a spy movie. We're talking about private aircraft running these island-hopping routes to move the physical gold and evade customs.
Exactly. And we know this works because of the seizures that do happen. Back in 2019, U.S. authorities seized $5 million in undeclared Venezuelan gold bars. They were hidden inside a private jet that landed in Fort Lauderdale.
So you just have to imagine how much gets through if that's what we catch.
Right. That's just one isolated interception.
Yep.
And they only pivoted to this new, dirty revenue stream after their traditional assets were completely exhausted. You mentioned distress selling before we started.
Yeah.
That term is perfect. It tells a story of panic. Between 2013 and 2016, before the illicit mining really took hold, the Central Bank of Venezuela was desperately liquidating its official reserves. They shipped 113 metric tons of state gold, valued at about $5.2 billion, to Switzerland.
So they were essentially selling off the nation's savings account at a discount, just to raise hard currency and keep the lights on.
Precisely. Acute financial distress. And it shows the pattern. First, liquidate all your official assets. Then, when sanctions really bite, you turn to the cheapest, dirtiest, most untraceable revenue stream you can find, illegal gold, to stay in power.
But this illicit activity, it's not just a South American problem. It only becomes this profitable because it leverages these massive legal blind spots right here in the U.S. Our own system is exposing us.
This is where we have to focus. As a matter of national security and financial integrity, these criminal organizations, they exploit gaps in our system that just were not designed to track gold as an illicit asset.
Let's start with the customs loophole, because this is, according to the sources, the single greatest and, frankly, most absurd weakness in our border security.
It is stunningly straightforward. It really defies logic. Current anti-money laundering policy. It dictates that travelers entering the U.S. have to declare currency or monetary instruments over $10,000.
Right, standard procedure.
But the loophole is this. The declaration requirement does not apply to gold.
Wait a minute, you're serious? So if I walk into Miami International with $15,000 in cash, I have to fill out paperwork, explain where it came from. But if I walk in with a suitcase carrying $1 million worth of gold bullion, I don't have to declare it.
That's correct. It is a massive, self-inflicted blind spot for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It essentially gives human couriers and professional money launderers a free pass.
An open invitation.
It's an open invitation to cartels and hostile regimes to move immense value across our border without any of the scrutiny that's required for simple cash.
And once that value or the laundered cash from it enters our system, these networks rely on corporate anonymity right here in the U.S.
Shell and front companies are universally identified as the single most common method used to move dirty gold and launder the proceeds. They let criminals hide their real names behind these opaque business registrations.
Now, Congress actually did try to close this loophole, right, with the Corporate Transparency Act, the CTA. It was supposed to require reporting on who actually owns these companies.
It was a necessary step, yes. But the policy was effectively gutted shortly after it was finalized. A decision made by the Treasury Department in March 2025 granted a massive exclusion.
Got it. How?
It excluded companies that have fewer than 20 employees and under $5 million in gross receipts.
Yeah.
That description covers nearly every single shell company specifically created for money laundering. This policy failure is actively compromising our financial security.
So this failure, combined with weak existing laws, just leaves law enforcement completely handicapped.
They're fighting the most profitable crime with the weakest legal framework imaginable. Legally, transnational illegal gold mining is currently not listed as a predicate offense for money laundering in the U.S.
And just for clarity, a predicate offense is the underlying provable crime that lets those serious money laundering charges stick, right? And illegal gold mining isn't on that list.
Precisely. And if it's not a predicate offense, prosecutors can't secure meaningful convictions or long sentences. The result is basically zero deterrence. We see it in the data. A leader in a $140 million illicit gold smuggling ring was sentenced to just 24 months.
2 years for $140 million. That's not a deterrent. That's a business expense.
Exactly. And the problem is compounded by a profound lack of resources and, frankly, proper prioritization within the government itself.
You're talking about cuts to the very units that should be fighting this.
A critical failure of focus. Shifting priorities have led to serious capacity reductions. We've seen top environmental crime prosecutors at the DOJ reassigned, staffing reductions at key units like HSI's Wildlife and Environmental Crimes Unit, cuts to the DOJ's International Affairs team. I mean, if we are serious about national security, these specialized arms have to be funded and focused on the dominant criminal threat.
So what does this all mean then? If this threat is eroding our financial security, funding our enemies, empowering violent gangs, we need an immediate, cohesive strategy to fight back.
We have immense leverage. We do. The U.S. is a major destination for this laundered gold. If we just tighten our own oversight, if we enforce accountability on ourselves, we can fundamentally change that cost-benefit calculus that currently favors the criminals.
The first, and it seems like the easiest fix, is closing that customs loophole, that open border for illicit value. Congress has to amend the reporting requirements to include gold at that $10,000 threshold, just like cash.
And we have to strengthen deterrence immediately. Congress needs to designate illegal gold mining as a predicate offense for money laundering. That would let prosecutors secure real severe sentences, something that actually disrupts the low-risk, high-reward perception.
We also need to fight the anonymity in the air, the physical smuggling. Since these private aircraft are so heavily used, Congress should require the FAA to register the beneficial ownership of private jets. If you know who owns the plane, you can track the network.
And the executive branch has to re-engage. They must recommit to the full, original implementation of the Corporate Transparency Act. Reverse the decision that gutted it. We need to know who we're doing business with. They should also establish a dedicated, coordinated, interagency task force on illegal gold.
Like that working group from 2020.
Exactly. This threat demands a focused, unified federal response.
And finally, we should lead by example right here at home. A 2024 audit found something pretty shocking. The U.S. Mint, one of the largest gold purchasers in the world, doesn't currently track the country of origin for all the gold it acquires.
It's a huge vulnerability.
They need to strengthen their due diligence immediately to make sure American tax dollars aren't accidentally funding the very networks we claim we're fighting.
You know, the key takeaway here is indisputable. The fight against organized crime can't just focus narrowly on narcotics anymore. Not when illegal gold mining is the dominant revenue source. A failure to close these basic U.S. legal and customs loopholes, well, it serves as an open invitation to these criminal networks and hostile states.
And here's the truly concerning issue to leave you with. We know the value of this illicit gold trade is staggering, potentially tens of billions of dollars. Yet law enforcement agencies like HSI and CDP, they aren't required to publicly track the seizures they make. There's no unified system for the data. So you have to ask, how can policymakers solve a multi-billion-dollar national security threat when they're fighting the war in the dark, unable to even measure the true scale of the problem? We need transparency, data, and the political will to expose this gilded threat for exactly what it is.